like the hardcore wizards, the dedicated ones, they only wear underwear under their
Oh,
robes.
they don't wear anything.
Yeah, remember
Oh, yeah.
Weasley's uncle or whatever that used to lift up his robes and pull flowers out of his butthole?
Yeah, that's the hardcore.
All right, well,
you don't want anything getting in the way of just pooping yourself right there.
True that. Good points. Hello and welcome to the Vassals of Kingsgrave. We are back this time around to continue our ongoing reread of the Harry Potter series of books. In this, the 10th podcast, we'll be picking up our reading of the Goblet of Fire, covering chapters 21 through 30. My name is Zach, also known as Alias on the podcast of Ice and Fire forums, and joining me we have...
Hi, I'm Abby, also known as DaceyMormont.
Matt, Varley on the forums.
Hi, I'm Saad, Saad164 on the forums.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining me for this, and hopefully we'll have Michal joining us in a little bit. So just a reminder, as always, this podcast is full of spoilers for everything in the Harry Potter universe, including the Cursed Child and the Fantastic Beasts films. We never talk about those, but we're ostensibly saying that there could be spoilers of those if you care about that. All right, so before we get into the chapters, I wanted to talk to you, Saad, for a minute, because I think this is your first time on the Harry Potter reread. Definitely not your first time on VOK. I remember we did like the VOK on Frozen like in 2014 or something way back. So you are an OG.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
So I got introduced to Harry Potter in 2004.
Okay.
So I saw the first movie a few years before that, but I didn't like it. I couldn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
So then someone told me that it's based on books and they're actually really good. So then I started reading them, and I read the first 5, and I loved them. And then I watched the movies again, and they were kind of okay, but I've always loved the books more.
Good to hear. All right, so let's go ahead and get into our chapters this time. We're doing the penultimate set of chapters for Goblet of Fire, ramping our way up to the big finale, but we're not quite there yet. So our first 3 chapters are going to be Abby taking us through those. So how about you get us started with that?
All right, so our first chapter is chapter 21, the House Elf Liberation Front. So in this chapter, Harry, Ron, and Hermione send a letter to Sirius recounting the events in the previous chapter, and then they go to a surprise party that I guess wasn't really a surprise. I don't really know. Harry also opens up the egg that he received from the last task, and it lets out a terrible scream, which has which the scene in the movies has been memed to death by this point of that scream. Also, poor Neville thinks that it sounds like someone is being tortured under Cruciatus Curse, which is very sad, as we will learn later on in this reread. At the party, Hermione learns that there is a secret to getting into the kitchens. It's now December, and then in Carol Magical Creatures, Hagrid attempts to see if the Scroots will hibernate by putting them in boxes and nailing them closed, because that's a good idea, I guess. Rita Skeeter shows up during class and plans an interview with Hagrid, but about his probably illegal animals. The boys have double divination afterward, where Trelawney tells them that she saw death in her crystal ball the day before. After classes are over, Hermione is suspiciously missing, but they find her outside the Gryffindor common room, and she takes them down to the kitchens, where they find Dobby, who is now working at Hogwarts with Winky, who was Mr. Crouch's house elf that he dismissed for casting the dark mark, supposedly, at the World Cup. Dobby is being paid to work, which is distasteful to the other elves. Winky refuses to be paid, and we learn about house elf rules regarding their master's secrets, which will probably be important later. And we also learn that Winky does not like Ludo Bagman.
Yeah, I think this is definitely, and it's pretty true of all these chapters, but mainly this one, I feel, is that it's kind of just a chapter to reconnoiter after all the stuff leading up to the first task and to savor victory in a way. And I really think these sorts of chapters are really important to what makes Harry Potter enjoyable to read. just kind of managing the ups and downs of tension and pacing out moments of catharsis and relief and just the joy of being in this awesome place, Hogwarts, where we get to have a great time, go to class, and do all this stuff. Like, it feels nice to get to do that stuff from time to time amidst all the tension and the boiling threats that exist in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, these chapters are very nice. They lend some levity, which it's nice because it's very seamless in tune with like all the darker stuff that's going on. But that being said, I didn't really have that much to say about this chapter. I don't know if you guys wanted to get into anything. Like, obviously the main thing is the house elves with the Dobby makes 1 galleon a week, and he was originally offered 10 galleons a week, which is about $60, I think. And apparently, like, Dobby had to barter him down. So there's, there's some stuff that we could be probably talking about with the house elves. I don't know if I really don't know if we've gotten into this before or not, honestly, but I don't know if you guys want to talk about that at all.
Yeah, as far as the idea of to what extent like they're conditioned to be this way, or whether it's like some kind of natural part of just who they are, that's an interesting question. But yeah, it's not really one that we really get to have a firm resolution on, like a step forward of this, this line of inquiry doesn't really reach any kind of meaningful conclusion in the story. It kind of gets left behind after this book. We do get more stuff about just in book 5 about just the treatment of other magical creatures and the ways that their relationship with wizards has been complicated, and we get stuff with Griphug, of course, in book 7. And there's actually some stuff too in this book that I thought was notable, which we'll talk about with the mer people as well. But yeah, it's just an element of the world, and I'm glad that these things are not swept aside and considered. But yeah, it doesn't feel to me like it's something that J.K. Rowling wanted to be like a dominant theme of the narrative necessarily.
Well, I think she weaves it in and out through all the stories, just like how you treat your colleagues, your betters, and the people that you perceive as lower than you really determines like the greater part of your character in general.
Yeah, we get that line in this reading that basically says like judge your person by how he treats his inferiors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, though, it's interesting with the house elves because I can't remember if it was one of my chapters, but later on when they're talking about the goblins and how the goblins, it's not the same because they can hold their own or whatever. And like, it's interesting because the house elves don't really have, out of all the other magical sentient creatures, they don't really have like a culture or like a social organization or anything beyond the fact that they, work for wizards. Whereas all these other magical creatures, they like have their own languages and they have their own societies and they have like, they have more, I guess, like more not life, that sounds bad, but like more society.
Culture is the word, yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, more culture. Well, and so it's like interesting because I'm sure that part of that is because, they've been subservient to wizards for so long, but it's also just like, it kind of is frustrating because it shows that like J.K. Rowling wanted to like make this point, but she wasn't really able to get beyond like they like to work, and they don't have aspirations. They don't have.
Well, I think what she's basing it on, and what makes it different from some of the other creatures in this world, is like we're kind of used to the Tolkien elves, and they very much have their own culture and history. But I think what she's basing them on are like the stories of little people or this natural spirits that were very individualistic, that belong to a certain hill or tree or outcropping of rock or whatever, and they do just stand alone, and in mythology they're more mischievous and stuff like that, but in this world they're very individualistic, but they serve their one family, and they don't really see like Zach said, like with Dobby saying, I don't need that much money, like they don't value, they value work and the performance of work over money, apparently.
And just to take it a step further, and I think we do hear this from Winky in this chapter, is they value that relationship. Not in every case, it's not like Dobby, where it's just like this miserable, abusive relationship, or creature also, you could say. It's like it's actually this kind of, and maybe it's very complicated and not neat in terms of course they're still enslaved, they're still servants that have no power or autonomy really, but they really value that sort of long ancestry of being the house elf family associated with this wizard family. Like there's that long relationship that they really love and appreciate. So I thought that element was interesting, but yeah, it's definitely it's not fully fleshed out.
And we don't know, like, do they get married? How do they reproduce?
Right, open questions. Yeah.
Oh, we've discussed elf sex at length during I think Lord of the Rings or Silmarillion podcasts.
Not surprising at all. One thought I had was, did Hermione ever meet Dobby before this? I can't remember. Did she ever actually encounter Dobby before this moment?
I think she was already petrified when Dobby came to the sick room with Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he only appears once when Harry loses the bones in his arm, and so Ron and Hermione meet him in this book.
Yeah, it was. I mean, whatever. But it was funny that like Hermione was like, "You have to come see this." I'm just like, "Do you actually know who that is?" But I guess Harry told her about it.
Well, she might have gone down to the kitchens and been like, "Hi, I'm Hermione," and then Dobby would have been like, "Oh my gosh, Hermione Granger, that's Harry Potter's friend. I'm Dobby." You know?
Yeah, he's a Hermie, just like what is he called? Ron?
Oh, that's right. Oh,
his Wheezy.
Oh my god, I hate the fact that Dobby likes Ron. And
you hate that he likes Ron? Yeah. Go on. Elaborate.
I just find Ron so, like, I don't like him as a character. And the fact that he somehow comes across as, like, benevolent to this elf that he's obviously making fun of and looking down on just kind of pisses me off.
Yeah, like, here, take this pink purple sweater I don't want. Just throw it at him. Oh my god, he's so nice. Yeah, I see what you're saying. For sure, Ron doesn't deserve
Can I just
love.
say something? So I listened to the earlier episodes of this podcast, and a lot of people didn't like Ron, and I was so surprised because I think he's hilarious. So when I was reading this chapter, and he had these one-liners which are so funny.
Oh yeah, I like Ron a lot too. But yeah,
I think Ron is really funny, but sometimes he's kind of a shit. But
yeah, that's kind of his role, right? You know, it's just to be that kind of person. But yeah. He's got plenty of redeeming qualities.
I have one more question. So I think in this chapter it's mentioned somewhere when Neville, he says something about someone being tortured, like when Harry opens the egg, so they hear the voice, and then Neville is scared and he thinks that someone is being tortured. So by this time, we don't know that, his parents were tortured, right? This is like a clue.
No, we learned that at the end of this reading. Yeah.
No, I thought we knew that. I thought we knew that his parents were tortured. We didn't know by whom or.
No,
I don't think so.
Because Harry doesn't know. It's like a secret, or not a secret, but just Neville doesn't tell people that his parents are insane or anything. So.
I can't. Right, I have to go back to the Unforgivable Curses chapter to see if when Mad Eye calls on Neville there that like he calls out that specific thing. He might have just vaguely spoken to it, but I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think he said something like, "Oh yeah, you'd know about that."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we could have inferred it. All right, I think that's it though. Let's go ahead and move to 22.
The only other thing was I wanted to know what Dobby would have said about the Malfoys, but he was too loyal. But I wanted to hear the dirt.
Yeah.
What dirt could they possibly have? They just seem like douchebags, like rich douchebags.
Yeah, like, just what are they doing? Stuff like they're Death Eaters, stuff we already know, I guess.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, they're plotting against Harry Potter, like every dinner table conversation is about, like, who affronted Draco, so he has to tell his father about it,
It's very important. All right, let's go to chapter 22.
Okay, so this is called The Unexpected Task. And so in this chapter, in Transfiguration, Professor McGonagall announces that the Yule Ball will be held on Christmas Day for students in their 4th year and above. And then Harry finds out that he has to bring a date and dance. So now Harry must partake in the Triwizard Tournament's 1.5th task, which is find a date to the ball. Harry is struck by the realization that he does not understand girls at all, and he wants to ask Cho, but he is too scared. Hagrid also has his interview with Rita Skeeter, which turns out to be a bust on Rita's end because Hagrid is a Harry stan through and through. As the date for the ball approaches, Harry finally works up the nerve to ask Cho, but unfortunately Cedric beat him to it. Harry at least does the correct thing, though, and doesn't get mad at Cho for rejecting him. Instead, he gets mad at Cedric. Both Ron and Harry are now the only ones without dates. Even Hermione has a date. What? She talks to people who aren't Harry and Ron? She's a girl? Luckily, Parvati Patil needs a date, and it looks like her sister does, too.
I'm confused why it took Parvati Patil so long to get a date.
Right?
Whatever. Not a big deal.
I could see why it took so long for Ron, but weren't people like after Harry anyway? Like to be like,
yeah. Well, he wanted Cho for a while, then he gave up and was desperate.
Just because he came in with like fame, and now he's like a good Quidditch player, and like he seems more of a catch.
Yeah, but he's also awkward and doesn't know how to talk to people.
He had a bunch of girls asking him, and he doesn't know how to interact with the female persuasion, so he was like, no. But like they were like, can I go to the ball with you? And he was like, no.
They made it easy for him, but he still didn't do it.
It is interesting though that the Patels both needed dates, because in the next chapter they're like said that they're the hottest girls in the grade or whatever.
Exactly. Like what happened?
Which is funny.
What's going on?
Maybe they're too intimidating.
Are they identical? I think in the movies they're not, but are they supposed to be identical?
They're twins. We just don't. They might be fraternal. They might be identical. Who knows?
They're just in separate houses. That's like the difference, right?
Which is a fun thing, right? You wouldn't expect that, so that's kind of a fun thing that they could be separated like that.
Yeah.
Hello.
In the movies, they're both in Gryffindor, so.
Alright, just simplify.
Yeah, I didn't like that at all, because I think I'm a Ravenclaw, so I wanted more Ravenclaw characters. But...
What,
you get Luna eventually.
Is Anthony Goldstein not enough for you?
It's not enough. Alright.
Wait, what about Anthony Goldstein?
We had Luna.
I've been summoned by the reference
we have,
Anthony Goldstein.
We have Michal here, summoned by that, so thank you for joining us. We're on chapter 22,
Hi.
Unexpected Task, talking about the angst of getting a date in high school, or middle school, or whatever. So.
Michal, what are your thoughts about Ron?
I think Ron has some very rough teenage years, to put it mildly.
Okay.
Why?
We're just
everyone's Team Ron over here, except for me. I think he's just douchebag.
I mean, he's bad, but he also has bad influences.
He's also like 14, and I don't want to say boys will be boys because like bad connotations, but a lot of 14-year-old teenage boys are just real dickbags. Like, and not because like they're dickbags to like. I'm not saying like they're dickbags to girls. They're just like little shits. Like they just don't have the maturity to be like just nice to people or like aware socially about anything really. Like I was friends with a lot of guys when I was growing up. My like main group of friends was guys, and they're all shits. They're just like they're great, but they're just like they don't have that consciousness yet of like being empathetic to others.
Emotional intelligence, you might say. Yeah, that's good insight. Thank you, Abby, for that.
Sorry to all the 14-year-old boys who are listening to this podcast.
The problem is Ron doesn't get much better.
True.
Like it's really until book 7, really.
Finally gets his shit together.
Yeah.
But even then, he acts like a little baby and runs away, and I had to bring it back. Like I was sitting in a pool. Oh my god!
He got his fifis hurt. Okay, it was a big deal. His fifis
and there's magically influenced depression happening. So that's the thing too.
And he's hungry.
Yeah.
All right.
God damn it! He does eat like all the time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In the movies,
he's very food focused in these chapters as well. Food's a
well,
big
that's
deal.
because he's a poor. Do you think they like starve at his house?
Doesn't seem like it, but
no.
Yeah.
Did you just say he's a poor?
Yeah.
Well, here we are. Here we are today. All right. So yeah, I think that just this chapter really captures that anxiety of high school dances. Just the difficulty of that experience, for sure.
Is this the first time that it's so obvious that Hermione is really into Ron? Like, she really wanted him to invite her?
We talked about this a little bit. There's like a little hint back in book 3. about it, of the relationship, but yeah, it's definitely...
Yeah, I think it was more in the movie, and they were fighting, but we didn't know that they actually liked each other romantically.
Yeah, it's definitely...
Maybe that's why I hate
more
Ron,
stated here.
because Hermione could do so much better.
Well, she
probably
does
right.
do so much better in the next chapter. Like,
Yeah, she does.
Ooh, Victor. All right. I also like we get a little
I-
Jenny Harry stuff here. You know, she's pissed that he references asking Cho. Not happy about that.
That was the saddest thing where she's like, okay, I'll make the best of this. I'll go to the
Neville.
ball with Neville.
Well-
and then it's literally like, you can go with the love of your life, but you
Too late.
already-
Poor Jenny. It'll work out, I think. All right. Anything else on this one? 22.
I do love the moment where they're like, oh my god, Hermione, you're a girl.
Oh yeah. Forgot. All right, let's go to chapter 23, the Yule Ball.
all right, so yes, chapter 23, the Yule Ball. So Harry receives a reply from Sirius, who just tells Harry to remain alert. On Christmas Day, Harry wakes up to a face full of Dobby, who has a gift for Harry. Harry, being the little twat that he is, has no gift for Dobby, so he gives the elf the dankest pair of socks he owns, and that's not dank being used in the positive sense. Dobby, on the other hand, gives Harry some handmade socks that he actually put effort and heart into. That evening, it is finally time for the ball, and we finally get to learn who is taking Hermione to the ball. Victor Krum. Wow! At the ball, Barty Crouch is absent, and Percy is there instead as Crouch's personal assistant. Karkaroff continues to be an obvious villain, not wanting people to know where his school is, and we get probably one of the best scenes in all of Harry Potter, which is Hermione teaching Victor how to say her name. Ron sulks about Hermione the whole night, and Harry also turns out to be a sulky boy over Cho, and thus an awful date for Parvati. Fred and George use the ball to make an elevator pitch to Ludo. While getting some air, Harry and Ron conveniently happen to overhear a suspicious conversation between Snape and Karkaroff. They also hear Hagrid confess to Madame Maxine that he is a half-giant on his mom's side. Wonder how that baby-making process happened. And as the ball is ending, good guy Cedric gives Harry a helpful hint regarding his dragon elf. Also, apparently Hermione has had braces this whole time, ?
I had this thought during the gift exchange part of this. I was like, this is the worst thing ever. Like, I can't imagine a worse thing than just, like, everyone exchanging socks for, like, 10 minutes. It's just it's so bad. I can't stand it. But yeah, not the best gifts this year, I felt. That was kind of disappointing.
But why did Harry have to give Dobby, like, the grossest socks that he owned? Like, come on,
He didn't have a
Harry.
clean pair? Yeah. I
Like,
agree.
Dobby knit those socks. Do you know how hard it is to knit socks, and also how hard it is to knit socks with color work on them? Like, oh my goodness, Harry, come on.
I mean, he probably knit them with magic.
Yeah, but
Well, Dobby
Harry
did.
still gave him the oldest,
maybe.
dankest socks that he owned. These knobbly, ugly mustard socks that were Uncle Vernon's. Like, come on.
And I was surprised how quick. Like, I thought that Dobby would hang on to the sock that freed him, like that he would always wear that. But I guess not.
Well, maybe he did. It just wore out. I mean, that was, 2 books ago.
Well, it's mentioned here, but yeah, fair enough. It's not important. All right, big thing in this chapter, of course, the Yule Ball itself. We get super pretty Hermione. It's always fun. I like that part.
A very pretty girl. Harry didn't know.
Wow, that's crazy. With Victor. And I just think Roger Davies is hilarious in this chapter. He's like the classic jock character. He's like, oh my god, I'm with Fleur, dude. Check this out, man. Just there's nothing valuable to add to the conversation.
He can't even talk.
Is this problematic with like body image that Hermione is able to take like her teeth that might have been viewed as flaws and change them to make her appear more beautiful?
With teeth, I would say no, because, like, I had orthodontia, so...
Yeah, it seems like it's a pretty ordinary thing. Like, it sounds like she would have grown into her teeth eventually with braces and growing up, but she just kind of, like, accelerated the process.
I will say
That's my impression.
The more pressing issue was the hair thing, because, like, I grew up with really crazy curly hair, and I definitely, like, all these books are always like, oh, these bushy hairs, so ugly, and, like, blah, 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 and I just wanted straight hair my whole life because of these kinds of things. So,
this was like a triggering chapter for you.
This and Princess Diaries, when like Anne Hathaway becomes really pretty once she gets her hair straightened, and I was like, okay, I guess only straight hair is cool, but whatever.
It's not true.
Yeah.
I disagree with that.
Well,
I just want to know when the first, second, and third years ate, because they're like, there was no Christmas lunch that day because of the ball. And I'm like, well, only 2/3 of the school is going to the ball.
They said there was
the rest went home, right?
Not all of them.
It's kind of messed up, like, if you're one of those people who can't get a date, like, then you just have to sit out. Yeah.
Well, you can go. I mean, Crab and Goyle don't.
Well, not if you're, like, Ginny, like, a third year. You can't.
Right.
Yeah. Sit out.
I feel like they were probably like, okay, so, like, 5th years and up. And then they were like, but Harry.
Oh, yeah, Harry.
Then, oh, damn it.
Shit.
Okay, we can inflict this on 14-year-olds.
So we have Ron being a dick again. There you go, Matt.
Yeah. Yep.
There he is, being a dick to Hermione because he loves her.
This kind of reminded me of my own prom in high school, because like I did not hang out with the guy that I went to prom with at all. I just hung out with my friends because I wasn't in their prom group, and then I never talked to that guy that I went to prom with ever again after prom.
I love the increasing number of Beauxbaton boys that begin to surround Parvati and Padma Patel. Like, just like they multiply repeatedly through the chapter until there's like 20 of them.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to be beautiful girls that aren't like being paid attention to by their dates. It's like blood in the water for sharks or something.
Okay, that's a way to describe it. All right, yeah, Yule Ball. Anything else? I feel like I'd like the word sisters. That's my other thought.
So I totally mispronounced Hermione's name, obviously. I said Hermione or something.
So
I
you're
think
like
so.
Victor.
I read the first few books. Yeah. I don't know if I found out through the movies or through this book, but yeah, I used to call her Hermione.
She gives us a helpful pronunciation guide here.
I think that's my favorite scene in like the whole book is just anytime Victor Crumb says like Hermione, it just makes me so happy. Like, I love it so much.
It gives him like an innocence that we didn't see before. He's actually a cool guy.
I like Crumb being a good guy, but I also really like Harry and Ron just like having zero idea of how to be dates and how to like not make this entire thing about them. And like, you ask someone out, that means you have like some responsibilities towards them in terms of not being an asshole. And they're just both like watching the show and Hermione like completely. It's charmingly obtuse.
They need to learn the old adage: if you can't be with the one you love, love the one you're with.
Or be polite to the one you're with.
Just not be a horrible person who neglects your date.
Impossible for Ron.
Fair enough.
Also, the last part of this chapter is, I love it. I love the I think this is what made me ship Ron and Hermione, because it's so like she gets it and he doesn't, but he's still acting in a response to his feelings. And
when Harry walks through the common room portal and they're just fighting like that, I just picture like explosions and lightning, etc. Yeah, we get the line from Hermione about how he should ask her, not as a last resort, and that does definitely accelerate the Ron Hermione shipping, I think.
And it means she wanted him to ask her, I think.
Yeah, no, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot going on there, not just from Ron's side. All right, anything else on Yule Ball?
Oh, I just have two small things. So I think this is the first time the Room of Requirement is mentioned, right? By Dumbledore.
Right, yes, the Chamber Pot Room.
Yeah, I think she set it up for the next book. And then I have one, I don't know if it's like a flaw or something, but so Mad Eye can see through Harry's, like he can see through things, right? Through his eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, I think this is maybe for the later chapter, but he also sees through Harry's...
the invisibility cloak?
Yeah. Yeah, so... But the invisibility cloak is supposed to be a deathly halo. So right. He can see his clothes and through the... Yeah. So do you think it's a flaw or...
I don't know.
How is his eyes so powerful?
Well, I mean, also, Mrs. Norris can smell or see him or whatever. It's not like it fully fades you from existence.
I found it more problematic that he's just looking around and probably sees everyone being naked all the time.
Yep.
That's kind of weird.
That's
Parvati's like, he's so creepy. And I'm like, you are correct.
Very true. Good intuition. I don't know. With the Hallows, like, I think they're not supposed to be all-powerful objects, really. It's just the myth around them that makes them seem so... like, they can actually master death. Like, that's not really a thing. Like, the Resurrection Stone doesn't actually bring people back to life. It just lets you talk to them like they're ghosts. So it's not... They're not supposed to be these amazing things that can do anything. So I'm fine with that. All right. Chapter 24. We'll go to that, which is you, Michal, taking us through these next three.
Yes, I don't have synopses for these because
all right.
things have been things.
True that.
Yeah. But basically, Ron and Hermione sort of move on from their argument. They all share the news that Hagrid's a half-giant, and they go to Care of Magical Creatures, and we have Professor Grubblyplank, who is actually pretty awesome, and I'm a big fan. And she's teaching them about unicorns. And I'm not saying she's a virgin, but I'm thinking she might be a virgin. Because there's a line like, how did she catch one? It's like unicorns like virgins. Anyway. Yeah. Unicorn myth is like they only like virgin girls. Let's
not make assumptions about Grubblyplank.
True. So there's an article that obviously the Slytherins know about in the Daily Prophet about how Hagrid is a terrible, horrible, scary half-giant, and this is why Hagrid has sequestered himself, and Hermione's, very defensive of him, and obviously, and Ron is slightly more like, oh, well, giants are scary, because of, prejudices and stuff.
You're winning a lot of points here, Matt, on the Ron argument.
Yeah.
He's the worst. He's the fucking worst.
Hagrid stays away. They decide to go to Hogsmeade to try and find him. On the way, they see Victor Crumb swimming in the lake for some reason. Harry still has no idea what's up with the egg. None whatsoever. And isn't
He'll
really
deal with it
working
later. It's 2 months away. Whatever.
It's fine. They run into Ludo Bagman in the pub, whatever it's called, Three Broomsticks, and he's running away from goblins, low-key, and they're just like, why? What's going on? And Bagman keeps trying to give Harry advice, and Harry's like, this is weird, but I can't really put my finger on why, because I'm not that putting stuff together right now. And then they also run into Rita Skeeter, and Harry yells at her, and Hermione yells at her, and Rita Skeeter's like, I'm going to ruin your life, bitch. And Hermione's like, I don't have a life you can ruin, bitch. And then Hermione runs to Hagrid's cabin. They find Dumbledore there, comforting Hagrid, and Hagrid kind of pulls himself together. And he is very emotionally invested, understandably, in Harry kind of proving the wizarding world wrong, that you don't have to, be born like the greatest wizard or whatever. You can grow up with muggles and, still be an amazing wizard. Causing Harry to feel so guilty that he decides to use Cedric's advice.
Yeah, you mentioned how good Grubblyplank is as a teacher, and I definitely have conflicted feelings because, at least at this point, he gets better, but at least at this point, Hagrid is just so bad at this that it really doesn't seem like he was the most qualified person for this job. No. So, should he be doing this? But he gets better later, so I don't feel as bad about it.
But
you need a learning curve.
How do any of the profs get qualified? They don't have any post wizarding school where you can go to learn to be an educator. You gotta learn on the job.
Look at the dark arts teachers that we've had. One had Voldemort growing out of his head. The other one was a complete fraud. The other one was a werewolf. This guy's an imposter.
That's because you have to beg people to take that job at this point.
Yeah.
The standards have gone down quite a bit for that one.
Malfoy always says so.
I also realized that I realized during this reading that something bad happens to Hagrid in almost every book. I didn't think about that before, but it's true. Like, book 1 is kind of the weakest, but the whole Norbert thing happens. Book 2, he gets sent to Azkaban. Book 3, Buckbeak happens. Book 4, Rita comes after him. Book 5, Umbridge. Book 6, Death Eater attack his hut with that whole thing. Book 7, carrying Harry's corpse. Not fun. So yeah, something bad's going on with Hagrid every book.
He also gets trashed in the beginning of the last book.
Yeah.
He gets shot down and into that swamp or whatever.
I hate to see it.
Yeah, I guess so. No, I mean, I feel really bad for Hagrid, and I guess he does sort of become a better professor after this because he has the unicorns and the nifflers and stuff like that. I don't know. I'm trying to think about like how unfair hippogriffs would have been as like if they would have really been ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, maybe not your first lesson, but they don't seem to be like unreasonable creatures to teach about. And to be fair, if you expect care of magical creatures to just be like unicorns and boat truckles,
Yeah, the whole blast into the Scroots was just a real mistake.
Yeah,
You really
on so many levels. Which again, I just sort of wonder what they're there for in terms if there is any thematic meaning to it. But there probably isn't, and I'm just looking into it.
Just you go write your Scroot analysis piece, okay? I just want to understand.
Doesn't Hagrid mention in the interview, like, he just mixed two species because he was just having some fun? I don't know.
It's mentioned in the Rita article that it was a manticore and what? Something else bad.
It's a long article.
Like a fire salamander or something. I don't know. Something bad.
Manticores and fire crabs.
There you go.
A fire salamander?
I don't know. That's the thing, right?
Sure.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I do think we get some of Dumbledore's best work in this chapter, just his kindness to Hagrid. Although we get the offhanded comment about Aberforth, which makes him seem like a joke, which is probably because that's all he was at this point in the story. So it's not like a big deal, but yeah, that was a little...
Well, he was a goat molester, right?
Yeah. It's just the way that he's offhandedly talked about that way by Dumbledore. But...
No, it's true. It makes me feel like they had some kind of like recent squabble or something because he's so mean about it. I don't know.
Not cool, Dumbly.
He's like, I'm not entirely sure he can read. And obviously when we meet Aberforth, he's a very intelligent, canny person. So yeah, I don't know.
But that's because, like, unless you go, there's no wizarding primary school, so
nobody
all these guys
read.
come back. Yeah, no one can read.
Well, I don't think he was a very good student. I think that's kind of what we get from some of the stuff and things. But yeah, I don't know. Because he didn't want to go back to Hogwarts. He just wanted to, after their mom died, he wanted to stay and take care of Ariana, as I recall. And I do think this is still Dumbledore in his, like, invincible phase.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I don't think he's doing the whole, like...
remorse deal and all that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's well, I mean, to be fair, he does think Voldemort's coming back, and he's right, so he does have other stuff on his mind. But...
True that.
Which we'll get more of later.
Indeed we will. Anything else on Chapter 24?
I'm just so frustrated with Harry. Like, how can you ignore Cedric's, clue?
Well,
because...
I mean, Cho, come on. Like, are you going to trust a guy who took Cho out for real?
Yeah, but he doesn't know that. It's all on Harry's end, man. Cedric's just trying to be a good guy.
I know.
I
totally
this
irrational.
is so realistic.
Yeah, it's realistic though, right? Because he's pissed at Cedric for taking his girl,
and it's so overblown. Like, he thought he was a nice guy, then he realized he was an idiot.
Exactly.
Beat him at Quidditch.
There's one line in there like that that's just so over the top. It's really funny.
Yeah. So I mean, Harry's completely in the wrong here. And I think part of it is that, like, I think honestly part of the sad stuff of this book is that, like, Harry could have had a very strong potential ally in Cedric, and, like, he doesn't, because not only, but partly because he's, biased by the Cho thing and the stupid Quidditch bullshit and all that.
Stupid kid stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think if he had done that, that would have changed Cedric's fate at all, or is that just a foregone conclusion regardless?
No, I think they would have picked up the cup together regardless.
Yeah, same thing, same result. We do get some potential like counterfactuals in chapter 25, though. The Egg in the Eye. I want to go through
that. Okay, so if that's my cue, Zach.
Okay, sure. Unless no one else says anything on 24.
Okay. Harry goes to take a bath. The end.
That's all that happens.
He goes to the prefect's bathroom, which is awesome. And, like, seriously, as somebody who has sensitivities around not clean bathrooms, I would pay somebody for use of that bathroom for if I were in Hogwarts, because, like, who the hell wants to share when you have that?
You would have been a prefect. It's fine.
Oh, I would definitely have been a prefect.
Yeah.
Anyway, Harry goes into the bath and is still, like, unsure what to do. And then Moaning Myrtle turns up and has definitely seen Harry naked already, and also definitely pervs on the other prefect. So that's a thing. And she kind of leads him to understand that he has to open the egg underwater and then listen to it. And he hears his assignment that they have to seek someone where they can sing. And anyway, eventually Harry gets to the idea that they're mermaids and that something is going to be stolen from the champions that they're going to have to retrieve. Past an hour, the prospect's black. Too late. It's gone. It won't come back. And Harry, satisfied with his success, takes a shortcut because he looks at the Marauders map. Honestly, the details of like the specific mechanics of all this are like still a little fuzzy to me. But basically, he looks at the Marauders map and sees Bartimaeus Crouch, not Bartimaeus Crouch Jr., but Bartimaeus Crouch in Snape's office, and he's like, "What? He hasn't been here. That's been a whole thing that we've been talking about." So he goes to investigate because he's Harry, and falls into the missing step, the trick step in the staircase. His egg falls out of his hand, starts screaming all over the place, and he drops the Marauders map. Filch finds him, and then Snape finds Filch, and once Snape sees the Marauders map, he's like, "Potter!" And then they all, like, whatever. And then Moody shows up just in time, because coincidentally, he was right near there, and no reason. He sees what's going on, and eventually he basically kind of does the Moody thing of like, "I think you're a Death Eater, and I think you're after Harry," and blah 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 blah, which is all quite ironic if you know the rest of the book. And then Harry gives Mad Eye Moody / Barty Crouch Jr. / the loyal servant of Lord Voldemort the Marauders map, which he himself says this could be exactly what I'm looking for, and it is exactly what allows him to basically carry off the rest of his plans flawlessly until the end of the book, including, I think, the stuff he does in the maze at the very end, like clearing the way for Harry and taking out the other champions. So this is maybe, I think, an underratedly prominent, stupid thing that Harry does, although obviously he doesn't know, but in retrospect, a very bad call. Which he does because he doesn't want to get in trouble, basically. And he goes back to bed, and Moody says that Harry should be an Auror, and he eventually does become an Auror.
Good call there. So yeah, this is a very important chapter for the momentum of the plot, which is why I mentioned the idea of potential alternate reality situations. Like, if Harry doesn't get caught on that trick step, does Voldemort even come back? Like, does that even happen? Because he might spot Mad Eye as Barty Crouch and tell Dumbledore, and that all gets blown up. Like, literally, that trick step caused Voldemort to come back. Right there.
Damn Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't they fix that?
Probably should.
Well, because it's Hogwarts, and if you are stupid enough to fall into a trick step, then you deserve to be stuck in the trick step, basically. I think that's the way things work with Hogwarts. But I really do. I mean, I contest that. I think Moody is. I mean, Crouch is clever enough to talk his way out of pretty much anything. I don't think Harry would have found him like in the room.
Right.
I think and given what he does in like the later chapter with Madness of Mr. Crouch, I think he probably would have been like, I know, I just saw him, and whatever.
Fair enough.
And Hermione is not there to remind them that you can't apparate or disapparate outside of the Hogwarts grounds. So they would have just assumed that he did that.
So Harry's really shit at this Marauders map, right? Because last book he saw Peter Pettigrew on the map and then couldn't put 2 and 2 together, and then this time he also can't put 2 and 2 together, right?
I think the Peter Pettigrew thing happened in the movie only, because I think in the book it's Lupin who sees Peter Pettigrew on the map, I think.
I believe you're correct, yes. Yeah, the map, though, like, it doesn't know he's junior, so some map fault here in this case. But yeah, like, the layers of tension in this scene on the stairwell are just amazing, because on the first read, you want Mad-Eye to help Harry from Snape. And on the rereads, you want the opposite. Like, it's so cool how that completely shifts the way that you think about this when you know what both those characters end up being.
I love the tension in this chapter. Like, whenever I'm reading that scene again on the steps, I've, like, forgotten the details. So when Snape shows up and everything, like, every time, it's, like, a good read.
Yeah, it always feels tense for different reasons, like I say. Like, first read, you think, oh god, I hope Snape doesn't find Harry. And Mad-Eye helps him out of that. But on the next read, you're like, go god, Snape, you need to help Harry out here and stop Mad-Eye. So.
Like, Harry, your fear about getting in trouble is misplaced.
I thought it was interesting, too, how Moody actually manages to seemingly intimidate Snape. I think he's probably, that I know of, only one of 3 people that could actually do that.
And Mad-Eye basically suggests that Snape is a Death Eater, right? When he says something about a Death Eater who walks free. Is he suggesting Snape?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and there's so many very, very poorly hidden Death Eater cues here with Karkaroff later. Just like, hey, look at this! In front of all the students, like, look at what's happening!
Yeah.
No one cares.
No, this chapter made my roommates really frustrated because I kept laughing anytime there was, like, Moody said something that was actually, like, a double meaning. Just because I was like, so
my
sneaky.
god, you genius, JK.
Put it this way, Potter. They say old Mad-Eye's obsessed with catching dark wizards, but I'm nothing compared to Barty Crouch. And, like, that's not even the Barty Crouch that we think he's talking about. So he's talking about himself. Yeah.
So well done.
But it is funny that, like, most of the mechanics of this chapter are basically, like, she needs to get the Marauders map to Moody, and she needs Harry to figure out, like, the damn clue already.
Of course, that doesn't help him too much. As we'll see in the next chapter, 26.
Yeah. The second task, and this is just such a gross chapter art. Thank you, Mary Grandpré. It's of the Gillyweed if you are reading the American, or not reading the American edition. So basically, Harry explains everything that happened to Ron and Hermione in a rather funny scene because they're in charms class practicing banishing charms, and poor Professor Flitwick is being sent around the room by Neville. Harry emails. Oh my god, I was literally about to, I just said that. Harry emails Sirius. Harry sends an owl to Sirius about what he heard, and then they start figuring out how to survive underwater for an hour. Yeah, it doesn't work. And Harry starts to panic, and it's like, yeah, maybe you should do your homework a little earlier, dude. Like, did you think that the last time was the only time it was going to be hard? Anyway, so Sirius asks for the date of the next Hogsmeade visit. They send it back, and Harry has to keep up a good front for Hagrid, who is convinced that Harry is going to win. He's looking through the library with Ron and Hermione again when the twins come to get Ron and Hermione for some reason. And McGonagall was looking a bit grim for some reason. Harry continues to read, sneaks back into the library, doesn't find anything, is woken up in the morning by Dobby, who gives him gillyweed because he overheard Professor Moody talking about the task. Randomly, Harry runs to the lake, turns into a fish, swims down through the lake, fights off some Grindylows, and then finds the mermaid village, which is actually pretty cool. I like how this is described. And then he finds at the foot of a statue of a mermaid tied Ron, Hermione, Cho Chang, and a little girl he doesn't recognize. Harry waits for Cedric and Crumb to come, but Fleur does not show up. So with, minutes left on his magic, he swims to the surface with Ron and the little girl. Ron wakes up, spouts water, and says, "What isn't this?" And all-timer quote there from Ron. And Harry realizes that his saving people thing happened, and that it really didn't matter. It would have been fine if he had just taken Ron and gone, because Dumbledore was definitely not going to let any of these innocent people drown or be slaughtered and eaten by mermaids. However, Harry does still get a good score, and the totals come out to him and Cedric tied for first, then Crumb, and then poor Fleur in fourth place. Fleur likes him now because he saved her sister, and Victor Crumb tries to get Hermione's attention by telling her that she has a water beetle in her hair. Also a good line from Ron. "You weren't being thick at all. You were showing moral fiber." Yeah.
Get points for that. As it turns out.
So who decided, what's the most valuable thing to each of the champions? Because isn't it a little presumptuous to think that it was a person, and let alone maybe a girl they just went to a dance with, and not
you have to save your favorite broomstick.
I just think shouldn't they put their parents down there or something? Poor Harry.
Whoa. Is this just all a joke to make fun of Harry's orphan status?
Oh, that's cruel.
Yeah, I don't know. It makes sense to do it this way. They're easily on hand. I don't know how they got Fleur's sister, but that's okay.
Right? They kidnapped a child from France and put her underwater for an hour?
It's important.
I mean, it's nice in that it, humanizes Fleur, but I guess it also means that she doesn't have any friends in Beauxbatons.
Which tracks.
Oh, man, that is sad, too. Well, what happened to that guy that she brought to the dance? Why wasn't he under the water? Why is it her sister?
I think we know.
Yeah.
I think we know.
I'm not sure she could remember his name.
Yeah, in the early parts of the chapter, the image of the annoyed Professor Flitwick flying by is just incredibly funny. In the banishment chapter, or in the banishment class. Yeah, this, again, it just perfectly captures what it's like to be, as I'm sure we've all experienced, up against a deadline, and feeling like your life is just spinning out of control, and just by the skin of his teeth, Harry manages to be ready for this. No thanks to his own efforts, but yeah.
What is a wizard's version of Googling something? Because I would think that there must be some book about surviving underwater.
The library.
Yeah, but
what is this
it's
library?
What my mom says. Yeah, it's what my mom says when I ask her questions. She says, "Go to the library, get an encyclopedia."
Oh, your mom's old school.
Yeah, you'd think they'd have a lookup system or something for. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Did the Dewey Decimal System not translate to the Wizarding world?
I mean, did it translate to our world, really? Does it really work?
If you knew how to use it, it did.
Did they try? Question though, did Harry and Hermione and Ron try saying Osseo book on blah 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 blah? Because I feel like that will work.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you need the name, the specific. Yeah. Just you can't say Osseo book about how to breathe underwater.
Or I'm sure the library has one of those books, at the front of the library that you always see in movies, where it shows all the books within the library,
that's
the big catalog.
I think that's
a card catalog.
I think that's what Saad's talking about, right? Some kind of lookup system that you could use to find specific titles and things. But yeah, I guess not. Everything's all disorganized.
Maybe they should check the indexes of the books they're reading.
They probably should. before they read the whole thing.
Isn't it weird that there's no like magical like Control F function?
It really makes you realize how valuable that stuff is. Like Google, Control F, like these things are important. Better than magic. All right. Yeah, and again, like I think I mentioned this when we were reading the first couple of books, but those books, as I read them now as an adult, the moments of tension always feel like they resolve really quickly. Like Voldemort encounter in Philosopher's Stone, like, oh, not a big deal. But here, like, everything feels so much more protracted, intense in a way that really does add to the book. I think, you know, this whole second task, like the experience of being underwater really feels like a thing. It really feels like it extends for a while. And like you said,
it's very cool writing.
Yeah, and like you said, getting to actually see the descriptions of the mermaid society. And I love the part where, in particular, and this is kind of what I was getting at before, when Harry pulls out his wand, the way they react to that, like you can tell just how much they fear the power of a wizard and how much power the wizards in the society have over everything else, just because of the things they wield.
I also, this is not my favorite task, but I do like, you know, in the moment, especially reading it the first time, it's very like, why did they get 3 people for Harry? You know, like, this is so confusing. Like, you know,
such a Sophie's choice for Harry, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. And they're like, no, dude. Like,
other people.
I guess Victor Crumb doesn't have any friends in Durmstrang either.
Apparently not. No, I do. It's there's some kind of nice, I don't know what the word is, but just like the fact that the person that the extra person he ends up saving is the person he knows nothing about, the one who he wouldn't be a choice for him, but that's just who Harry is he's going to save the person who actually appears to be in danger and has no one else to help them.
I think my favorite thing about this task, though, is that like the champions line up on the water, everybody's there looking, and they dive in, and then nothing happens for an hour. Like, unless Bagman had some kind of, like, way of viewing it that he could announce what they were doing outside the lake. But,
some kind of camera system rigged into the water that can capture what's going on. It's pretty hilarious when you think about it. All right, everyone, let's watch this.
It's the same thing with the maze later on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the maze, yes, but I feel like they maybe could have seen some stuff in the maze if the bleachers were high enough.
Again, they need some kind of camera system so we can have big screens showing everything. But it's more plausible in that case. Yeah, and again, judges in this are absolutely terrible at assigning scores. These scores make no sense. Nobody even...
They're so arbitrary.
Nobody even got in within the timeline. Like, no one was able to complete it, so why is everyone getting almost perfect scores?
I would have been so bullshit
if like a dunk contest.
Yeah, exactly.
It actually would have been more interesting if Harry wasn't the first one. Like, if he had, like, maybe passed Cedric, you know, who was carrying Cho, and then he gets there and Ron and Hermione are there.
Yeah, the fact that, I don't know, like, that he was there first, plus he saved 2 people, and I don't know, just none of it makes sense. The fact that Fleur fails and gets, like, a 40 or whatever, doesn't make any sense.
No, she gets 25 points.
Still, like, getting any points for completely failing the task doesn't make any sense to me. But
I think the whole point system doesn't make any sense, because even if you got 0 marks in the first 2 tasks, you still would be able to complete the third task.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you just enter like 2 minutes after the other people.
Right. I'm okay with that, but of course it really just means the third task is the only one that matters. These ones. But that actually is okay with me, that whole thing.
Yeah, so everyone talks about like how dangerous this tournament was, but like really no one's been put in real danger. Oh, I guess the dragons.
The dragons were pretty dangerous. Yeah, the Grindylows were like the only dangerous thing here.
Right.
And I mean,
drowning,
I think that the lake, it's more about the magic they use to get through the lake, which is, I think, why Fleur gets some points, because her spell works.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the test is really like how your intuition and your ability to solve this clue and figure out what to do. So yeah.
I'm just confused why it was so hard for Harry to find something to use. I don't know if you guys mentioned this already. I was kind of occupied doing something else, but if like how both Fleur and Cedric were able to do find the bubblehead charm and use it, and like how Harry could not find a single thing.
I wish the bubblehead charm was real.
I wish a lot of this stuff was real. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just because I don't know.
They had a better search engine.
Yeah, probably. Well, the thing we find out so much in all these tasks is everyone is cheating, right? And Harry is the only one who, like, until the end, like, doesn't recognize the cheating that's coming toward him. Like with the book that Mad Eye gave Neville, he doesn't figure that out. But yeah.
I don't think Cedric is cheating. I think he definitely came up with because Dumbledore's.
You're right. Everyone but Cedric is cheating. You're right.
Yeah. But I think Crumb. I mean, they even have a comment about how like Harry can transfigure himself because that's like high level magic and it could go really wrong, and Crumb does it and it's okay in the end, but it doesn't go great. I
think Cedric isn't cheating intentionally, but still, I think it was Mad Eye who told him about the egg.
Oh yes, Mad Eye is helping Cedric too. That's right, to help Harry and by proxy. So there's that. Yeah.
Can you
just
imagine Mad Eye's like what's his name's frustration, Crouch's frustration though, like with Harry just like clearly having no idea what to do.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I fucking gave you.
Yeah.
I gave it to you.
We get that whole spiel at the end. Just like,
yeah.
I was so hard to get you to do basic things.
I love the idea of Moody like talking to Harry, like he's like, oh Harry, my boy, I love you're a great kid, you're smart, blah blah blah.
Could be an or.
Inside he's just like this idiot.
Yeah. And there's the point also, of course, these other people are much more experienced as wizards. In theory. Just because they're older. Okay, I think...
Which one would you guys like? Because I think about this a lot. Like, which, would you like to have, like, the ease of swimming of the gillyweed, but also it's going to run out? Or would you like to have, like, the bubblehead charm that's, like, you can breathe totally fine, but you also still have to struggle with swimming? Or, I guess, would you like a shark head?
I want the shark head. Give me that. No, I think gillyweed's clearly the best, right? Yeah, because it just gives you that huge advantage being able to swim easily.
Yeah.
You don't need to be able to really... I mean, apparently Harry can still cast spells, even though he can't talk properly, so
that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, so that disadvantage is not considered. So, gillyweed's pretty good, which is probably why that's what Mad Eye gave him.
But it looks so gross.
True. You have to eat that.
And your neck splits open, which is just creepy to me.
Also true. Bubblehead charm is definitely the least uncomfortable option.
I want to know why Harry went into the water with his robes on.
He wasn't thinking. He thought to take his socks and shoes off, but not the whole.
He's like, yes, these heavy robes will definitely not slow me down when I'm trying to swim, and I don't know how to swim.
I think he probably would have looked really stupid trying to pull his robes over his head on the edge of the lake with everybody else being ready.
Just self-conscious also being naked.
Yeah. He mentions like how big the other champions are. Maybe he's like self-conscious that he doesn't have underarm hair like they do.
Yeah, and the gains that he hasn't acquired yet, like Crumb probably has.
He could be... Okay, but what do you think he's wearing under his robes? Like, he's probably wearing like a school uniform or something, so like...
I imagine it's a onesie.
I think it's just underwear under there.
I think
don't like that.
He mentions during like the third book or something that he like sticks his wand into the pocket of the t-shirt he was wearing under his robes.
Yeah, I think true wizards or whatever, like the hardcore wizards, the dedicated ones, they only wear underwear under their robes.
Oh, they don't wear anything.
Yeah, remember Weasley's uncle or whatever that used to lift up his robes and pull flowers out of his butthole?
Yeah, that's the hardcore.
All right, well,
you don't want anything getting in the way of just pooping yourself right
there. True that. Good points. All right, anything else in 26? Okay. Saad, you'll be taking us through chapters 27 and 28.
Okay. So, chapter 27. After the second task, Ron becomes a hero, and Harry receives a Snapchat from Sirius to meet him and Hobbs meet the coming weekend. In potions class, the Slytherins are giggling over Rita Skeeter's Witch Weekly article, which says that Hermione is toying with the famous hearts of both Harry Potter and Victor Crumb. Hermione does not take it seriously, but she wonders how Rita could have gotten some of the details he mentioned, including Crumb's invitation to visit him in Bulgaria over the summer. Snape separates the three friends as punishment for speaking in class, and from Harry's new seat at the front of the room, he hears a dialogue between Snape and Karkaroff, who interrupts the class. Karkaroff seems frightened at the appearance of something on his upper arm, but Snape shoots Harry away from before he could hear anything. At Hogsmeade, Sirius meets them as Padfoot, his animagus dog form. They go to a nearby cave where Sirius has been hiding and living off rats. After a debate as to whether Winky or Bagman was more likely to have conjured the Dark Mark at the World Cup, Sirius confides in the students that Mr. Crouch was ruthless in his fight against Voldemort, and he was chosen as the next Minister of Magic as a result. However, his own son was convicted as a Death Eater, given a short trial and imprisoned in Azkaban, where he soon died. Sirius adds that Mr. Crouch lost everything then, and perhaps hope now that if he caught another Dark Wizard, he could set his career back on track. Sirius seems puzzled about the fact that Mr. Crouch had his ass save him a seat at the World Cup, but never showed up to take it. Sirius suggests finally that Ron write a letter to Percy to try to find out more information about his boss. The trio then leave the cave, and that's the end of the chapter.
I just can't stop laughing at the idea of Sirius sending a Snapchat to Harry with the dog face filter. Just saying, like, you up? It's so perfect.
And we get that, the iconic line from this chapter. If you want to know what a man's like, take a good look at how he treats his inferiors, not his equals.
Right.
There it was.
Yeah, it was Sirius who said that.
So ironic. Yeah. Because Sirius fails so hard at that in the next book.
Right, exactly.
He really does.
Irony.
So does anyone think that Snuffles is a weird code name that he wants to give himself?
You think there's something going on there?
Oh, no,
I think that's like Sirius's drag name or something. Like there's something going on there.
I think Padfoot's a better drag name.
I think Snuffles is definitely a better drag name.
Tell us in the comments which is the better drag name.
We'll have a poll.
Yeah.
All right. So we get the bit with Snape in the class with the Veritaserum threat because he thinks that Harry stole from him. Is this like a plot hole that he can't just use legitimacy, or is that just a different thing?
I think it's like legitimacy would be considered like a violation of his. It's like I think it would be. It's like at the same as like using I always say Veritaserum, and I know that's not how it's actually pronounced. Veritaserum. Like it's kind of like an invasion of one's.
I'm sure it's not allowed, but it doesn't seem like he cares so much about that.
Well, yeah. I think Harry's protected under his Fourth Amendment right of search and seizure of his home, and I think legitimacy violates that.
His Third Amendment right that no soldiers can.
I thought that was the Fourth Amendment.
I think it's the third.
No, it's the fourth.
All right, whatever. We're not getting into this right now.
Oh, come on. Can't we do constitutional law?
All right, Bill of Rights podcast. Anyway.
But Snape does actually, like, basically threaten to roofie Harry in this chapter.
He does. So. It's pretty fucked
up.
But
he's such a teacher.
Why would he think that Harry stole Boomslang's skin? Like, he knows the gillyweed, but, like, Harry doesn't have any use for Polyjuice Potion. Like, what? Why does he tie those two together?
Because Harry did it second year, so he's like, he must be polyjuicing again. He's juicing, man. End? He's juicing.
All right, I heard you.
Wait, Harry's juicing? What's happening?
I really think Harry should have just been like, yes, I consent to the use of Veritaserum, and then now I will tell you the truth, and the truth is that you're wrong.
Well, here's the problem, though. What if he learns about Cho?
That's like more important than like getting.
That's what's so funny. It's such a like a or worse expelled moment. Like, what if he finds out about Sirius or Cho? I love it. It's so true, though. It's so real.
I mean, it does speak to Snape's, unapproachability and unsympatheticness as a professor, but...
Yeah, I mean, he does not want... There's things that he knows that he does not want Snape to know, or at least he thinks he doesn't want Snape to know, so it makes sense he would not be down for that, despite the Cho thing. We get some lines here that I think, and then this is, of course, developed more later, but some lines that do really develop the sort of moral nuance in this story, where it's not a very clear good versus evil thing with the ways in which Barty Crouch persecuted people. He is kind of seen as taking it too far. So it's not just like, we gotta catch the bad guys, and that's all that needs to happen.
Unforgivable curses, huh? Like that's pretty, it's hardcore.
I'd say it's pretty unforgivable.
Yeah. Do you think that JK was trying to, draw parallels to, the use of torture and stuff during the Iraq and Afghanistan about this time?
Could be.
I think just being possible. We could be as bad as they are, and in order to, fight the... quote evil.
When was this book published? 2000? So no.
Damn. Is that true? Yeah. Taken down, Matt.
Well, good thing America didn't start torturing people till after.
Well, I mean, it's just not to say she's not making commentary on that.
It wasn't as much of a societal concern, I don't think.
Yeah.
That people were talking about. I just thought, why is Sirius wasting food here? He threw that bread away. Come on, man. You're eating rats right now. Eat that bread.
So why isn't Sirius, he's been corresponding with Dumbledore, right? Or do we know that yet by this chapter?
Not this chapter, but yeah, we know that.
Why isn't he able to get, the house elves to, magic him some food in the cave? Something a little more...
I don't think it works that way. There's probably something Dumbledore could have done that he wasn't, but that's always true. You could say that for a lot of things.
That's true.
Yeah, this conversation's frustrating, right? Because Sirius seems like he's close to putting the pieces together, but the pieces are just so hard to put together that he doesn't actually get anywhere.
Oh, that reminds me of something. So when Harry mentions that Karkaroff was showing something on his arm, and Sirius was like, I have no idea what
that's about. They don't know about that.
That means that no one knew about that, only the Death Eaters did.
Yeah, so that's new.
Don't you think that's impossible?
Well, if it can't be revealed unless they do some spell, how would they make it appear?
I thought it was maybe I'm just getting the movies mixed up because I thought it was just a brand on them.
No, I think it has to.
No, I think in the book it's also a brand.
Well, it is, but it's not always there. Yeah. It's not.
No,
always
I think
visible.
it is always there.
Really?
I'm pretty sure that J.K. Rowling said in maybe this is a post. I think that this was just said in an interview or something, but she was talking about Draco Malfoy's dark mark, and after Voldemort falls, she said it was it's still there, it's just faded or something.
Yeah, and Draco tries to hide it when he's getting new robes in the shop.
Yeah, I don't know, because the whole idea, and maybe it's just that it becomes more pronounced and something. The way that Karkaroff is showing it to Snape makes me feel like it's a new phenomenon that it's there on his hand.
See, what I think it is it's always there, but it's when Voldemort's not active, it's pale and not noticeable, and then because Voldemort's gaining strength, it's getting darker in color and starting to hurt or starting to act up and maybe yeah, it's becoming alive or something, because I think it moves, right? It's a
dark mark.
It might be a movie
yeah
thing. I'm not sure.
Okay, whatever, but it's it is getting it has magical properties in it, and so because Voldemort is getting stronger, they can feel the mark calling them, I guess.
It might just be Sirius who doesn't know, because he's been in prison for 13
years. I was gonna say also like maybe Sirius got thrown in jail before this was revealed.
But they were all fighting the Death Eaters. Surely they weren't just vaporizing them.
Yeah, it does.
They would have seen the mark.
Maybe Sirius is just an idiot.
We're gonna have a poll on this as well in the show notes. No.
Man, so many polls.
There's a lot of polls. It's around that time. Anything else on this one? It's pretty much a setup chapter, just talking to Sirius, basically.
It definitely doubles down on the thing we're about to get very soon, which is that the Barty Crouch Jr. was an innocent victim who we can all relate to and feel very bad for. with the whole history that Sirius gives. It's I think one of my favorite like twists that she does.
It's amazing in so many ways.
Yeah. Because he is such a like privileged child, and like even the line that Sirius says, like, people started to wonder how a boy from such a fine family could have become a Death Eater, and it's like, and that goes against Dumbledore's whole philosophy and the whole thing that Hagrid's been talking about, with his giant background, that like it doesn't matter if he's from a good family, he could still be a piece of shit. Like he could just be a Death Eater.
I like how Percy, who's never shown much aggression in his life, Ron thinks he could do the same kind of things that Barty Crouch did, like for work.
Yeah,
I feel like Percy would do anything to secure more political power.
Well, I mean, he kind of does. Like, not, like, obviously he doesn't persecute his family, but like he chooses his side and goes with that. And
but then he comes back. He sees the error of his ways. He's all right.
I love Percy, and actually, we get a really human moment from Percy in the last chapter where he freaks out when Ron is like in the water. And Ron is fine, and he gets all Mrs. Weasley, and he's like pulling him out, and like he's white faced, and which I actually have not a lot of sympathy for Percy, but I find his arc very relatable.
Well, he's ambitious, but he just doesn't know what to do. I don't know how to put it.
He's the butt of his family, like everyone just shits on him all the time.
No, just Fred and George and Ron.
That's like half
of his family.
All right, but his mom loves him. That matters.
The thing is, he's such a rule follower. Like, it's almost like he should be in Slytherin because he's so ambitious, but he should also be in Ravenclaw because he's so rule following, and like I have no idea what Percy's in Gryffindor, gotta tell you. But like he is motivated by ambition, but his methods are very, very Ravenclaw in terms of like, and not all Ravenclaws are rule followers, obviously Luna Lovegood and whatever, but like in terms of the like, this is the prescribed path and this is what you do, so that is automatically right. And Hermione has a good deal of that too, but she's already starting to move away from that. Like when they talk with Fred and George, and Ron is like, yeah, they might actually break the law if they could make money and get away with it, and she's like freaking out because it's not a school rule, it's the law.
Percy Weasley is just proof that the house system is bogus.
Oh, it is bogus for sure.
Or the Sorting Hat was just like, oh, I don't know what to do with you.
Well, the Sorting Hat just like, oh, a Weasley? Okay, Gryffindor.
Yeah.
Phoned that one in.
Yeah.
All right, should we move on to chapter 28?
Things are getting weird.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is actually where the book starts getting good, because I'm not a huge fan of the middle section of this book.
We're getting there.
The teenage angst.
Oh, the teenage angst is fine. It just goes on for so long, and like, oh my goodness. Ugh.
These books are getting long.
The next book is going to be really difficult to cover.
Yeah, I need to think about that.
Oh my god.
All right, Saad, you want to take us through?
Yeah, so chapter 28. The following morning, Harry, Ron, and Hermione sent an inquiring owl message to Percy, and afterward visit the kitchen to give Dobby several new pairs of socks. Dobby is ecstatic, and all the houses are delighted to see and serve them, except for Winky. Hermione is upset and wants Winky and other elves to fight for their rights, which makes them angry, and they ask the trio to leave them, but give them some food for Sirius. Hermione is receiving hate letters for supposedly breaking Harry's heart, and Hagrid is busy teaching the students how to use nifflers, animals that dig for gold. Ron collects the most leprechaun gold, and upon realizing that it disappears, asks why Harry didn't mention that Ron owed him for the omnioculars. Ron is feeling embarrassed about being poor. Hermione is upset about being persecuted for what Rita wrote. They discuss how she could have overheard the conversation she writes, and Harry suggests that she has somebody bugged. One evening after Easter, the champions are called down to the fields to hear about the next task, which will be a maze and obstacle course with the Triwizard Cup at the center. On the way back toward the castle, Crumb pulls Harry aside into the Forbidden Forest and asks if he and Hermione are romantically involved. Harry tells they aren't, and Crumb seems relieved. At that moment, a shabby, ill-looking Mr. Crouch appears in the forest, talking to himself, to trees, and to Harry with an insane sort of desperation, saying in garbled phrases that Bertha Jorkins was his fault, that the Dark Lord was getting stronger, and that the Dark Lord was getting stronger, and that he had to see Dumbledore. Harry leaves him with Crumb and runs to fetch Dumbledore, but when he and Dumbledore arrive in the forest, they find Crumb stunned and Mr. Crouch gone. Hagrid and Moody arrive, followed by Karkaroff, who accuses Dumbledore of treachery, infuriating Hagrid. Harry is sent back to his dorm under Hagrid's supervision and told to remain there all night. Hagrid warns him gravely about associating with foreigners, such as Crumb. And that's it. I was surprised how, racist Hagrid was in this chapter. He's openly don't trust foreigners.
Well, I
it's
think
personal.
That's part of it, right? That to me is like a really powerful example of the way people can resort to prejudice.
Oh, I thought it was just Madame Maxine he was mad at. I thought that was the whole thing.
He is mad at, but that's I think why he's presenting these horrors,
I thought that was kind of what was catalyzing his random distrust of foreigners, just being his jilted lover feelings.
Yeah,
he just got scorned by a foreigner, so therefore, all of them.
But it is a real thing.
I'm about to ask a really dumb question, but I literally have no recollection of what is going on with Barty Crouch. So can someone please explain to me what will be revealed later at the end of this book?
No, you'll just have to wait and see. You have to keep reading.
Yeah, did you not read the chapters?
Spoiler-free podcast, Abby.
The full reveal has not happened yet.
But in terms of what he actually did in this situation?
Yeah, because I think I remember it, but I feel like I'm not right.
Hold on, what do you think happened?
Did he help Barty escape from Azkaban, and then now he is that and then I don't know what's going on right now.
Correct.
Is he under the Is he under the Imperious Curse, or
yes.
what? I don't.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
At this point.
He's basically he's been keeping Barty Crouch Jr. in his house. And then at the World Cup, which Sirius notes that somebody in the top box could have taken your wand, and he's right about that.
Yeah. God, Sirius, come on.
So
close.
And he, so basically in this scene, Barty Crouch Sr. has escaped, but he either is still under the Imperious Curse or has been under it for so long that it's still, messing with his mind. Yeah, and then thanks to having the invisibility cloak, Barty Crouch Jr. can just come up and kill him.
Wait, Barty Crouch Jr. has the invisibility cloak? When did he get that?
He has a invisibility cloak.
I'm sorry, not the invisibility cloak. Well, he does, but also the Marauder's Mask.
Okay, I knew he had the... Okay, sorry, I was not close reading.
Isn't there a line in the previous chapter where, Harry's I'm not in that much danger, and he's nobody's been killed or something like that? Mm-hmm. And then, the next chapter is when shit gets real. We don't know it yet, but...
Yeah, and the whole thing with that, right, is that it's because he's kind of being sheltered and protected to set him up to the final screw up. Yeah, and to just answer your other question, Barty Crouch helps him escape Azkaban. They swap him with his mother.
Who is dying.
Okay. That's what I thought, okay.
All right. I was wondering, is there no regulation of just sending curses to each other and all this? Is no one checking the mail? That seems a little bad.
Yeah. Yeah, who sends hate mail to a 14-year-old girl?
The readers of This Weekly.
This is before social media.
It feels very social media, though, right? Hagrid talks about getting death threats and all this, so it feels...
I feel like this is J.K. Rowling being I'm famous now and people don't like me.
Okay, you think? Yeah.
But, okay, I do have to wonder, because isn't it in the 6th book, after the necklace incident, don't they start screening the mail and stuff?
Yeah, to Hogwarts, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously Hermione could have just gone to McGonagall and been listen, people are sending me really dangerous shit in the mail. So...
Well, she doesn't know at this point. The Booba Pass that she opens is the first batch of letters. She probably should have stopped after the first two.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe Harry and Ron should have told her about the letter that said I was going to send her a curse later or something. Or did she read that? I don't know.
The murder letter, the serial killer letter with they cut out different newspaper clippings.
Oh my god, the part with Easter, with Hermione getting the tiny egg from Mrs. Weasley. The saddest thing. It's so sad, just her holding her tiny little...
rough look for our girl, Mrs. Weasley.
Tough stuff. Absolutely. We get the Nifflers in this chapter. They're fun.
Yay!
Did they have any other presence in this story?
Yes. Well, not in this book, but in the next book, what's his name? Lee Jordan sends Nifflers up to Umbridge's office to steal her jewelry.
Yes.
The
Umbridge sabotage bits. Yeah, they probably should have shut down the tournament after this whole thing happened.
You think?
Like, oh, people are disappearing. Someone disappeared on campus, and we don't know why or how.
Somehow someone else's name got put in the Goblet of Fire, but we're going to roll with this. Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is all Hogwarts.
Going fast and loose with this Goblet of Fire thing.
Yeah, and we get, this chapter with Dumbledore coming out, looking at this stuff. Anything else got to say on this one?
Dumbledore says, 5 things sharply.
He gets real sharp in here.
Yeah.
People are, got to get serious time for Dumbledore. He walks really fast.
Did anyone else find it endearing that Crumb actually really likes Hermione?
Yes!
Oh, yeah,
and that he's, chill with Harry.
Then he gets Imperious.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
Well, he gets stupefied.
I mean, I know that we're supposed to be team Dumbledore and Hagrid, but I think Cadcroft had a point. Like, if a judge is attacking other people, they should just totally stop the tournament.
It's true. It's not good.
I also feel like Dumbledore, I mean, I get it. Like, he was injured. Like, you want to get the headmaster there right away. But, like, at the same time, he probably could have been like, listen, here's the situation. Before just being like, hi, I was attacked, I
have a question about this chapter. So, somewhere in this chapter, it's mentioned that Harry sees an eagle owl.
Yes.
And in the next chapter, he's like riding the eagle owl in his dream. So, are we supposed to know about this owl?
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Specific?
That's my chapter. So I actually Googled it, and apparently the only eagle owl that is referenced in the books belongs to the Malfoys.
Yeah, I thought it was just something to do with, like, the Malfoys or something. When he saw an eagle owl, he was like, oh, Draco's getting a letter.
Varley.
Yes, sir. Harry, Ron, and Hermione discuss the evening's events far into the night and are unable to determine who attacked Victor and what happened to Mr. Crouch. The next morning, they send a message to Sirius, and they hear Fred and George arrive talking about blackmailing someone. Ron says that they've been obsessed with money and that he thinks that they really could blackmail someone to get the gold that they want for the joke shop. Professor Moody says that he can't find Mr. Crouch, even with the Marauders map. Ron suggests that maybe he disapporated, but Hermione, for the 9,000th time, tells her that you can't disapparate within Hogwarts. But he could have escaped through the forest. And then Moody, like a champ, suggests that she has a good mind that works the way an Auror, and she could be an Auror when she grows up, too.
Not Ron, though.
Not Ron, no. Ron tries to be clever and gets no... What is it? Support from Moody? What word am I looking for?
Props.
Well, Ron ends up running a joke shop, so...
Let's talk about Ron's future later. Let's talk about the life of Ron Weasley.
So... Sirius responds to Harry and says, what the hell are you doing going out of bounds with Victor Crumb? And he says to act smarter and to stay indoors. Over the next few days, Harry's training for the third task. He's practicing Stunning Spell and Impediment Jinxes, and then they go to divination class, and the room is hot, and there seems to be some kind of flying beetle running around there. Harry falls asleep, and he dreams he's flying on an eagle owl, and he goes into an old house and lands on a large armchair. He sees Wormtail in pain, as well as Nagini. A voice from the armchair says Wormtail's in luck and that his blunder has not ruined everything. The man is dead and that Harry Potter will soon be dead too. The voice then says that Wormtail needs another reminder not to blunder again and cruciates him again. Harry then wakes up screaming at the floor, grabbing his scar, and Trelawney asks what he was dreaming of, and he says, I want to go see Dumbledore. And as he goes up to Dumbledore's office, he hears Fudge speaking about Bertha Jorkins and Crouch and Fudge even mentions that Madame Maxime could be involved because she's half giant and apparently a monster. And then Moody says that Potter is outside the door listening. The end.
I just love that the whole Fred and George thing is it's like a whole other plot line happening independent of all the other shit going on in the story.
Yeah, like Bagman's got his whole other thing going too.
Yeah,
he's meeting with goblins about his debt. He's, trying to get away from Fred and George. It's a good little subplot.
Just add some depth and texture.
Yeah, so Ron gets no props for being he's not going to be an Auror.
Yep. Too bad for him. He tried.
We got a prediction from, I think, George in this chapter when he mentions that Ron, carry on like this and you'll become a prefect, which is a good prediction.
Correct. It happens. I love how that's such an insult.
But who else out of the Gryffindor boys would be a prefect? Seamus always is blowing things up.
Neville
is not a very powerful or intimidating person.
Neville prefect.
Why do you need to be powerful and intimidating?
Because he has to enforce rules. Okay, if he just lets people walk all over him, he's not very good at enforcing rules.
Also, Dean Thomas is a very measured person.
Dean could do it.
He should be seriously considered.
He likes to paint. That's all we know about him.
He likes soccer. We know that.
He's good at drawing.
We know so much. Yeah, so of course the main thing in this is the dream, really. That is the thing. And I was curious, is there any significance to the flying the eagle part? What is that part of the dream?
I don't know. I think that it was kind of like him warging into the scene, right?
I guess, yeah, it's just that. It's just an interesting access point.
It's weird. A lot of them sort of... It's sort of like finding the pattern that is established in the 5th book with how Harry sees things like this, but not getting it fully yet.
Yeah,
because it could start off like a normal dream,
right?
He's not inside the snake yet,
right?
He's kind of hovering above.
Also, so what was Wormtongue's failure here? Was it something with Bertha Jorkins? I'm finding out. I can't remember. What did he screw up?
I think he fucked up and let Barty Crouch out when.
Yeah.
Why did Wormtail have him?
Well, because Barty Crouch couldn't do it, and they don't have that many followers.
Okay, you gotta assign him to that one. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, I thought it was because they were in Barty Crouch's house.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Oh, yeah, you're right.
No.
Wait, no, you're not.
No, they aren't. They in? No, they're in Little Hangleton.
Did they move though? Did they move away?
Yeah.
But Harry.
Yeah.
I mean.
Who knows?
Okay, hold on.
We'll revisit this later. We'll have a poll.
Hang on, let me see how it's described.
All right, take a break and look at the book.
Because I think it's described like it was in the opening.
We also learn later that Voldemort has been hiding in London in Bartimus Crouch's house while Mr. Crouch was under Wormtail's imperious curse. Once Crouch escaped, however, the house was no longer safe because when Crouch was found, he would lead investigators back to the Crouch residence. At that point, Voldemort and Wormtail would have shifted to new quarters. The Riddle Manor was most opportune with Frank Bryce gone.
Right, yes, I think that's it, because it's now they were flying along a gloomy passageway. Rewinding. An old ivy-covered house set high in a hillside. Lower and lower they flew. Broken window. I think that's Malfoy. Not Malfoy Manor. I think that's Riddle House. Yeah. But yeah, they could have like fled there after he escaped.
Man. Well, I don't know who gets to take the victory lap now. It's very confusing.
I think it's a tie.
Yeah, tie game. All right, let's go down.
I also like the reference to Rita Skeeter in this.
The bug in the divination room?
In the window, yeah.
She always is in these spots.
Yeah.
We just don't notice.
I just remember finding that very cool. Like, I feel like that's actually, like, way more subtle than, like, you have a water beetle in your hair, you know. Like,
True. All right, anything else on this one? He goes to Dumbledore's office. Nope. Okay, 30, the pensive.
All right. Well, Moody lets him in, and Dumbledore asks Harry to wait while he shows Fudge and Moody where Mr. Crouch had appeared and disappeared. Harry notices a shimmering light in Dumbledore's office, and inside a partially open cupboard was a stone bowl filled with an odd glittering substance. Peering into it, he sees a torchlit stone room filled with tiny witches and wizards. He moves closer in for a better view and is catapulted into the scene. Nobody in the room notices him, and Harry, seeing that apparently younger versions of Dumbledore and Moody are present, realizes he is inside a memory and settles down to watch. In a courtroom, a young Bartimus Crouch is overseeing the proceedings. Chained to a chair is Karkaroff. He bargains for his freedom, offering to identify Death Eaters. He names Dolohov, Rossier, Travers, Mulciber, but they have all been killed or captured. Karkaroff then names Rookwood, works in the Department of Mysteries, and was passing information to Voldemort. This is information that is new to Crouch, and Karkaroff is to be returned to Azkaban while the court deliberates. In desperation, Karkaroff names Severus Snape as a Death Eater. Dumbledore interjects, saying that while Severus had been a Death Eater, he had turned double agent before Voldemort's downfall and is no longer the Dark Lord's servant. The memory fades and returns to the same room with a lighter atmosphere. A young Ludo Bagman is seated in the same chair, but not chained, as he answers charges of aiding Death Eaters. Bagman claims he was unaware that Rookwood was working with the Death Eaters and believed that he was collecting information for our side. As the wizards vote, Harry realizes this is the Wizengamot. The judges vote to free Bagman, though Moody and Crouch seem annoyed by the verdict. Again, the memory fades and reappears, only now the room is grimmer. A witch and 3 wizards are chained before Mr. Crouch, accused of torturing the Aurors, Frank and Alice Longbottom, to uncover Voldemort's whereabouts. The Wizengamot unanimously sentence them to life in Azkaban. The boy, Barty Crouch Jr., pleads for his father to spare him. Crouch disowns his son, and while his wife is weeping, watches as Barty Jr. is condemned. A second Dumbledore suddenly appears and grasps Harry's elbow, returns them to Hogwarts. The bully says is a pensive. What, is that the right pronunciation? Can we just okay on that? Not pensive?
I don't know.
I say pensive.
I say pensive, but yeah.
Okay. I always thought it was pensive.
You do you, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
When too many thoughts and memories are in Dumbledore's mind, he can siphon them off and store them there. And patterns can be seen inside the pensieve that are not otherwise immediately apparent. Using his wand, Dumbledore extracts a thought and places it in the pensieve. Harry sees his own face smoothly turning into Snape's, who says, "It's coming back, Karkaroff's too." It's a connection Dumbledore could have made without assistance. Harry apologizes for snooping. Dumbledore responds that curiosity is not a sin, but requires caution. Teenage girl's image then rises in the pensieve. It's Bertha Jorkins, and she was at Hogwarts. She's complaining that a boy jinxed her because she reported him for kissing Florence behind the greenhouses. Dumbledore asks why she followed him behind the greenhouses in the first place. Harry then recounts his dream and is surprised that Dumbledore already knows that his scar has been hurting him all summer because he's been communicating with Sirius all summer. Dumbledore believes Harry's dream was hardly ordinary and that Harry's scar hurt whenever Voldemort is nearby or feeling strong emotions. In the dream, Harry never saw Voldemort, only the armchair from behind. But there would be nothing to see. Voldemort still lacks a body. Dumbledore says Voldemort is growing stronger, and his earlier session to power was marked by unexplained disappearances. There are currently 3 missing people: Bertha Jorkins, Barty Crouch Sr., and Frank Bryce. Dumbledore believes that they are all linked, though the Ministry does not. Harry also learned that Neville's parents, mentioned in the final memory, were tortured until they went insane, and now permanently reside in St. Mungo's. That is why Neville lives with his grandmother. Also, Ludo Bagman and Severus Snape had been uninvolved in anything dark since the trials, and Dumbledore trusts Snape completely. Dumbledore requests that Harry says nothing about Neville's parents, not even to Ron or Hermione, because it's Neville's story to tell.
Yes, we get the pensive, however you want to say it here. Regardless, it's a pretty important magical item for the story. So.
I have a question about how pensives work. When you remove the memory, do you no longer have that memory, or like?
I think no. I think you still
by magic. That's how it works.
Okay, but never mind.
To be clear, yeah, I think you do still remember the thing that you're removing.
Right.
I believe.
Right, because when in Half-Blood Prince, they're trying to get the memory from what's his name, and he's altered it, but then he can get the real one, and it's like creating a facsimile of the.
Yeah, it's just a representation. Right. Yeah, I always have that thought too. That, like, if you pull it out, is it gone? It's kind of what it sounds like.
If you pull it out, is it gone? And then you look into it and you see it again and you remember. Like,
right, it's weird.
But doesn't Snape put in Snape's worst memory? He puts out the memory so Harry wouldn't be able to see them.
I think they just remove them from being like an anxiety driving, like that they're so top of mind that like anyone could read them. Like,
yeah, it's very confusing. I just can't imagine that it would be like you forget the thing that you're pulling out.
Yeah.
All right. So we get this look into the past. We see 3 different trials. We see the first one with Karkaroff, learning that he has various informations.
I do think it's interesting how none of the Death Eaters know who each other are in the first time Voldemort's there, but when he comes back the second time, they all just like are hanging out all the time at Malfoy Manor, like no masks on, like what's up, bud?
Where is the secrecy?
Long time no see.
Well, anyway, the inner circle was. I don't know that like rank and file Death Eaters are, but.
Well, but Karkaroff was obviously inner circle because he has the mark. So, like,
Yeah, that's true.
That's a good point. Maybe they're just like, this is real this time. We're going all in. Like, we're not fucking up.
Voldemort's security practices changed this time around. Perhaps. So, I mean, this is setting up, of course, more information about Barty Crouch Jr., that he is a person who exists and seems like he might be important. It's really like currently he's just being viewed as the thing that marks Barty Crouch as a cold, heartless bastard, but we learn there's a lot more to the story later.
I also think it's really interesting that they make these huge deals about Regulus and Draco being like so young when they take the mark, but then you got Barty Crouch who's also like 17, and I feel like Snape had to be pretty young too, right? Because the Potters were like 20 when they were killed, so Snape was like 20, had to be younger than 20 when he took the mark, and I just feel like everyone who takes the mark is so young.
Well, it's weird because like they're all in school, like plotting to join, like when they're at Hogwarts. Like,
right,
Voldemort's own inner circle was built when he was at Hogwarts. So
honestly, it's not that different than like I'm waiting Nazi youth and stuff, like the Hitler youth,
Yeah, but it's just I feel like they make a much bigger deal, like in the later books, about Regulus being so young when he joins the Death Eaters, and same with when Draco joins too. I think they make a much bigger deal out of it, but it just seems like everyone who's joining, besides like a select few, are either in their really early 20s or just graduated from high school.
I think it's more to do with like that kind of preparatory school system that like everyone knows what they're doing and making connections to, join whatever they're going to join after school, like whether that's government or Death Eaters or whatever.
And it makes it really easy when you put all the evil people in one house. So.
Exactly. It's a recruitment center.
Yeah, totally makes sense. All right, yeah, I mean, this is really just setting up these 2 chapters, really, and the one before are really setting up the final stretch here of putting the pieces together of this mystery. And I think, yeah, it's significant that we get the pensive. It is it's very important to the story, this item. So cool to see the first introduction of it. Anything else on chapter 30 before we wrap it up?
The Neville stuff is so...
And it's only going to get more in the next book.
Yeah. I mean, to me, again, this is where the story starts to like get more mature. You know, when you, because Neville is just like a jokey kid, and like a couple chapters ago, we in this chunk of chapters, we were laughing at him for asking Hermione out to the ball. You know, and you know he was turning into a canary, and it was so funny. You know, and just the idea of Dumbledore, like, so you've known this kid for it, like really crystallizes. You've known this kid for 4 years, and you never asked, like, especially you, other orphan, you know.
Yeah, just the gradual way the story gets more mature. It's really remarkable, because of course here we just get that information. In the next book we actually, and this is really, you know, an intense thing to see in a ostensible kid or young adult book, to actually go see them in the hospital. It's a big step.
So I have a question about why the last vision of Bertha Jorkins was even brought up. Is that like to show her she shouldn't go around like looking in places like Albania, or else she'll get...
I think it's just to show that Dumbledore is trying to put these pieces together of everything, all these missing people and just the details and what's going on with her, etc. I'm not sure why he chose that memory in particular.
I think the Bertha Jorkins memory is to show that she is really good at sticking her nose in where it's not wanted, because the reason she goes missing is because she found out the secret that Barty Crouch was not in prison. So I think it was just like a little hint that Bertha Jorkins knows what's up sometimes, and she's not this...
Wait a minute. Like... How did she find out? I thought she was captured in Albania by Wormtail.
Well, according to Harry Potter Wikipedia, she like went over to Mr. Crouch's house, Crouch Sr.'s house, and saw Winky talking to Barty Crouch, and was like...
Correct, yeah.
Huh. Mm-hmm. And so then...
Yep.
And then he cast a memory, and then Barty Crouch Sr. cast a memory charm on her, and it was like really strong. And so then she kind of went a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's remarkable that she suddenly, as Ludo described, is suddenly so absent-minded. Something is different about
Crouch broke Bertha Jorkins, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Sure is.
Why Sirius is confused when he's like, I don't know, I knew her and she was like an idiot, but she had a great memory, and yeah, like no judgment, but
she was an idiot with a great memory.
But yeah, I mean, because she had no judgment on when to deploy that.
All right. Anything else on this one before we wrap it up?
Solid 2 hours of goodness.
Yeah, man, we went into it for sure. And we will continue to do so with our last section of the Goblet of Fire, which will be our next podcast, the 11th episode of this Harry Potter reread we've been doing. We will be going... Yeah, that's crazy. It's going to get good. These are some good chapters. We have chapter 31, the third task, through chapter 37 at the beginning. So we'll have those last 7 chapters for us to read through. And shit's going to get real.
So... I'll likely, I don't know what your schedules are like, but because of work, it's going to be real slow for me. So I'll have a pretty open schedule.
Yeah, I'm thinking we might get this done soonish, because there's nothing else to do right now. So.
Yep.
Any other podcasts, speaking of, people are looking at?
We just recorded ReRead.
Yeah,
yeah, we're having a Witcher podcast.
What is that going to be?
We are talking about... It is the books. Let me know if you want
spoiler free. Yeah, spoiler free, because not all of us have seen the show.
And it's just going to be the first book, so The Last Wish.
Oh, interesting. I've been reading them, so maybe I'll come on that.
I actually highly recommend the audiobooks if you want something to read.
Who reads them?
A guy named Peter Kenny, who is everything that you wish Roy Dotrice would be.
It was so funny to me how much better the books got after the short stories. Like Blood of Elves was like a huge step up, and of course, like for me, like I know a lot of these characters.
Are fun.
They're fun, but like it felt it felt like a huge step up to me. So if there are people reading them who feel like I'm not really getting into this, as soon as you get to like the main series, I feel like it's a huge ramp up.
Well, I just bought the first two yesterday, so
you guys will talk about it, I'm sure.
I mean, literally, like I not to get too doomsday, but like I think a lot of things will not be in production for a while. So I think we'll be going back to established things that we haven't read or watched yet.
Indeed.
Let's do another Lord of the Rings reread.
Yeah, I'm down.
I actually was contemplating buying those books because I've never read them, but I already spent too much money on Witcher books. So
Right. Well, I'll say like when I first read Lord of the Rings, I was like 13 or 12. And I liked them a lot, but I didn't like super love them. But when I read them again last year, like I appreciated them on a much deeper level, I felt. So
yeah, I was thinking of getting the audiobooks because now that I have no school, I was planning on knitting a lot, and so I thought I could listen to them on an audiobook. But there's so many different there's so many different like authors reading them or narrators, so I'm not sure which one to get.
Let me check my phone. The one I have is really good.
Is it the Rob Ingalls? Because I saw that one.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. But I'm also really poor, so I have to see if my roommate will let me use her Audible.
Audible's not cheap.
It's
you can
$15
always
a
check
month.
like Libby and Overdrive.
Yeah, the wait is so long for them on Overdrive. I checked my university library and my local library back home.
Yeah, Rob Inglis is the one.
Okay. Yeah, I found on archive.org the last two books, but they didn't have The Fellowship, which was super annoying, so...
Just skip it. It's not important.
Right. Well, I've only ever seen the Fellowship of the Rings movie. I haven't even seen the other two.
What is wrong with you?
I didn't like fantasy growing up. I just liked Harry Potter, and then I really only ever read historical fiction and like
what does that mean?
Sci-fi.
Like, what did you read?
Did you read Burnwell?
Well, no, I was just really into like I don't know, like I went through a phase where I was really into reading about the Siege of Leningrad, so I would read like nonfiction books about it, and then also like if an author wrote a book about it, or I went through like a phase where I really liked reading about the Holocaust and World War II.
Did you read David Benioff's book?
No.
I heard it's really good.
It's
Katie,
actually,
I think, read it.
It's
She
pretty
likes it a
good.
lot.
We did a book club on it in VOK if you want to listen to that.
What is his book?
City of Thieves. It's about...
I know that book.
Yeah. It's not bad.
I feel like did I read that book? I never really had friends who read that book.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually going to end the podcast now.
All right.
So, thank you all so much for joining me for this latest episode of the Harry Potter reread. It was a lot of fun, as always, and we will continue next time, as we said, with the final bit of Goblet of Fire, and then we'll figure out what the hell to do with Order of the Phoenix, that gigantic book. I do feel like I don't want to make people read so much every time, but I also want to finish this in the next 15 years, so we'll figure it out. All right,
read it backwards.
How many chapters?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to look. Probably a lot. All right. Thank you all again so much. And if you want to check out more VOK, you can do so at vokpodcast.com. You can come chat with us in the forums at the Podcast of Ice and Fire forums, which are very easy to find. You can check us out on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, all the places. And if you want, you can leave us a review on iTunes. Always appreciated. Thank you all so much again. And we'll be back again very soon. Bye-bye.
Wash your hands.